Welcome back to Ducks and Pucks. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co host, Eddie Jones. And this is our second playoff edition this year of our podcast. We're catching up the action now with the Ducks. Two games in the book, Eddie. And who would have thought, not that the Ducks would win two, but, we came back in both of these games after trailing in the third period, Eddie.
I don't know. I think it's not the way that we would have liked it, but I don't think everybody's too surprised. We've been doing it all season, so the first two playoff games they want to make it exciting, and in the last 10 minutes of the game, just pulling out a win, especially in the first game, being down 2-1, scoring three goals, and then last night, obviously, Silfverberg grabbing that last minute winner in 19 seconds. They made it exciting, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look back, we talked about the keys in these series, and I also had a little series preview, and we talked about some of these things. The big things really have been the face-offs, the special teams play, and that's been key in the first two games. You look at game one, the Ducks won 40 out of 64 faceoffs, and they dominated on the power play. Two out of three chances they scored on, and then they shut down the Jets in that first game. Eddie, it looked like all the things we talked about, and of course the ability of the Ducks to come back is what happened in game one.
Yeah, no, I think there've been two really good games. There's a little things we can pick at, but we talked about it was gonna be a physical series, and the Jets are one of the hardest hitting teams in the league, and we've out hit them both games. Obviously a lot better in the faceoffs in the first game, but still beating them in faceoffs in the second game. We expected them to improve on it. They kept our penalties down, power plays improved. I think all in all, it's been really good, and with Getzlaf, Perry, and Vatanen getting all the points in the first game, being able to get that secondary scoring in the second game, we assumed the Jets would come out and try and shut down Getzlaf and Perry, and getting goals from Maroon and Silverberg is a real plus as well.
Yeah, let's go back to the first game too. There was a little part in there where some people had some questions too. You remember when Perry scored that goal, and basically the play carried on for another minute, and they eventually went back and reviewed it, and Pavelec ended up making that save with his pad, but the puck went all the way in, and subsequently after much review and all that, they gave the Ducks the goal and the time went back, but then the penalty on Stoner stayed. So a lot, there was a lot of confusion on that play, and I remember, people were messaging me and all of us. We were trying to figure out, what was going on with that. But just so that everybody knows, if you ever get a chance, go to the NHL rulebook. If you Google that on the internet, you'll find the rulebook with all the rules. And the rule that applied in this play was NHL Rule 78.6. And we talked about this. I know some people weren't really happy with the rule, but the way it works is if you're the team that scores and there's that extra time that lags, basically what happens if a penalty is committed, the penalty still stands. And I know a lot of people were kind of frustrated at why, but it's really a player safety issue, Eddie, because the team can't go score a goal and then basically run wild and just check everybody as all that they would please to do.
Yeah, I've only actually seen the call maybe two or three times before, so it's obviously it's not something that happens often, and sometimes you get the play where it hits the back of the crossbar and the refs don't see it, and you can only go a couple seconds before the play is called. But in this case, you go a couple minutes before the play is called, and then Stoner takes your penalty, so you get the full effect of the call. Something you don't see that often, and then obviously, it worked out in our favor with Perry getting the goal, and obviously the Jets not converting on the power play, but. It's something I could see. It's really confusing. You don't see it a lot, so I can see why a lot of fans were, upset about it. But hey, in the end, it was a goal for us, and we cut off the power play, so it's not too big of a deal.
Yeah, exactly. And for those of you that know, if the roles were reversed, say the Ducks still had scored that goal and the Jets had committed a penalty, they would not have been penalized because the way the rule works is if you're the team that gets scored on, it's almost like a delay of penalty situation when the attacking team pulls the extra attacker when you score that penalty gets wiped out. It's basically trying to make it fair, Eddie. You know what I mean? You don't want the team that gets scored on to also have to go down shorthanded.
Yeah, and it's also to prevent cheap shots too, because if you know the goal's in for say the Ducks score and they know it's in, and they prevents them from just taking cheap shots, taking things that would normally be penalties because they know the play is getting reviewed and taken back. So, in that case, if it was against us and that rule wasn't in place, the Jets are taking cheap shots at us or something, we'd be a little angry if that wasn't in place. So, I understand it, and I get how it goes both ways. Where if the Jets were to take a penalty, it'd be a race because it'd be a little bit unfair if we score and they took a penalty and then they're still back onto the penalty kill right after. So, I think it's a fair rule. You don't see it that often, but when it comes into play, it definitely helps out.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, just as a reminder, we got another rule to cover for the second game as well. But I'll just always check. There's a big PDF file. It's I can't remember. It's 100+ pages. But if you go in there and you Google NHL rulebook, you'll come across it. You can do a search in there. Put in goalie interference, which we're going to talk about in a little bit next, and you can find all the rules on there. So if you ever have a question, that's basically where we go to get all the information. And then, we try to relay it to everybody else because, I understand that some of the fans, they actually complimented us, Eddie, this last week about going over the rules and stuff because, there's some younger fans that may not know hockey or there's some, just fans that have come in and they're trying to figure out some of the rules. So we try to take some time to explain some of that to you. That way you have a better understanding. But in this first game, Eddie, I was really impressed with Perry and Getzlaf. They really came out and took control of the game in the third period, and I think that was the key in this game for the comeback. The Ducks also Anderson played spectacular. The Ducks could have been down 3-1, a couple times in that second period.
Yeah, I know you really got to credit the play of, especially in the third period, the credit of the play of Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf. It's about time we got some real, solid production from Perry, and not to criticize him or anything, but a lot of fans would get on his back in the last few weeks of the season, and a big coming out party for him in the first game, getting 4 points, and I think that really sets him up for the rest of at least the next few games if he doesn't have some stellar games. At least he had that 4 point game to pat him throughout the series. But like you said, yeah, a second period too. We still did get scored on, and that seems to happen no matter what. If we play a good or bad second period. But I think we really did play a solid second period. It wasn't like some of them in the regular season where we got outshot 20-5. I think we actually held the play in the second period, and Drew Stafford grabbing that goal was a little bit unlucky, and Adam Lowry's goal was a little bit unlucky for Anderson too. I think all in all he had a pretty strong game, and besides a couple guys making mistakes, Stoner and it was a pretty solid game from the defense, good game from Anderson too, and obviously a big game from the Twins up top.
Yeah, I mean that was basically the tone that was set in that game, and they came back again. Game one was the 19th come from behind win when trailing at any point. Either at the beginning of the period or in the middle of the period, and happened again in game two. Game two was a little bit of a different feel. It was scoreless after the first period. The Ducks had a couple power play opportunities there and couldn't quite cash in. They even had that 5-on-3 for 20 something seconds, and they couldn't get it done. But I mean, they played well, to start this game in the first and second period. Obviously, the Jets getting that goal in the second period, but I thought overall the Ducks played well in both games, even being down a goal at the end of the second period in both games, Eddie.
Yeah, and they really played another good physical game, getting 48 hits, more than the first game in this one, and just playing a solid game throughout, winning the faceoffs like we said, and getting the secondary scoring, and even in the second period being outshot 12-5, I still think it was a strong second period, even though they get scored on. I don't think anybody expected Adam Party to pull out a goal, and especially a goal of decent quality like he scored. So you can't really blame Freddie for that one either. And then you knew they were going to come out strong in the third period. We've seen it all season, saw it in the first game, and we talked about it as well. One of the keys on the power play is to get some of the big guys in front of the net, Perry and Maroon, and it pays off with Maroon parked right in front of the net. It seems to brush off the back of his sweater and go in, and then the the exciting goal from Silfverberg made a nice little turn on Little down below, and pulled up front and scored. So I think it was a really strong game, and we'd like to score on those early power plays, but I think even with the one power play goal tonight, it's somewhat, don't quote me on this, but I think it's 5 or 6 games in a row I heard them say that we've scored a power play goal against Winnipeg. So I think it's good to keep the power play going, and hopefully we can it can continue to heat up throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's something you bring up. You look at these power play opportunities. They were even in game one and even in game two. Game one, both teams had three chances. In game two, both teams had four chances. You look at the Ducks; they've scored three out of seven of those chances, Eddie. Just under 50%. And the Winnipeg Jets, big 0 for 7. So that was something that's been key. We talked about special teams. Both teams being pretty even on the penalty kill and the Jets being a little bit better during the season on the power play. But right now, the special teams, you got to hand it to the Ducks. This is the reason why they're up. Part of the reason why they're up 2-0.
Yeah, definitely. Killing off all seven power plays that the Jets have, and then like you said, going 3 for 7 on the power play, and that was the main thing we kind of gave the edge to the Jets in is because our power play and penalty kills struggled all season. And we knew we were gonna get power plays in this series, and the Jets being one of the highest penalized teams in the league, and we knew they were going to get power plays too, being us being up there as well. So I think it's been a really good start from both. It's going to get a lot harder going into Winnipeg. It's not like I said, it's not possible to win there. It's going to be hard. It's going to be loud, but it's not like the Jets were. They were a good home team this season, but they were still near the bottom of the league. With their record, but it's gonna be tough, and they're gonna have to continue to play good on the special teams if they're gonna want to grab a win or finish out the series in Winnipeg.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if we'll get two up there. I think we can definitely get one. But it's definitely important. That was a question I had asked Dan and Steve on the radio last night, and they had answered it talking about the Ducks going up 2-0. You want to maintain that home ice. So I think with the Ducks in the driver's seat right now, I mean, obviously we'd like them to go in there and win tomorrow and just go up 3-0 and just take a stranglehold. But I'm not going to be too upset if they get one out of those two and then be able to go to the game on Friday, as most people know I was out of town for the second one. So we'll look for that and see how they do. Another key thing that came up in this game was that goal that we talked about, which it was kind of interesting to see everybody's reaction because that goal by Parody, half the fans said it was no good, half the fans said it was good. It was one of the few goals, Eddie, that even you and I and the staff, we all disagreed. We were trying to figure out, why it was good or not good, and it was kind of interesting. And I'll just mention something here about the rule, and then you can kind of give your take on it, Eddie, and we'll talk about it. But the biggest thing here is under NHL Rule 69, when a player interferes with a goalie, as you all know, most of the time the goal is taken away unless there's contact initiated by the defending player. But as the rule states, at which time when that does occur, the attacking player, I'm quoting from the rule right now, has to have made a reasonable effort to avoid such contact, and they're meaning with the goalie there, right there. So the issue here, Eddie, was whether or not it was reasonable, and I know you and I kind of disagreed, but what was your take on the goal and whether or not Anderson was interfered with?
I definitely think he was interfered with. You see him slide over and he hits uh what is it, Stafford, I think, or Stepniak. He hits
Yeah.
Stepniak's skate while sliding over, and he's interfered with, but then it comes into Kessler obviously pushes him to the net. There's a lot of things here that you look at it and it could go either way. So Kessler pushed him to the net, so that right there, he has to be it's on him to get out of the crease and get out of there as quick as he can. He gets up kind of slowly, maybe drags his leg behind, but honestly, I think he tried to get out and then Kessler kind of blocks him. I think it was a good call, but it was borderline, and that you saw that with the reaction from the fans. Obviously you didn't agree with it either, and it could have gone either way, and. With the play not being reviewable in Toronto, and we talked about that too. That could come in with the coach's challenge eventually, but with the play not being reviewable, the refs had to make a decision, and I think all in all they made a pretty good decision. But it could go either way.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think part of the key too, Eddie, was being reviewable. The refs had called good goal and had called that Kessler had pushed, made the initial contact on that play. So, I mean, that's kind of what defeated any chance of that goal being overturned. The issue I had was just with the reasonableness of Stepniak getting up out of the way. It seemed like he got up real slow and he didn't really skate away. So to me, that was the part that was kind of frustrating. I think that's what most of the fans saw too, is that he obviously reasonable. He has to get out of the net. That's what a reasonable player would do, and that's kind of what they're talking about. I'm kind of going on a legal tangent here from my law school stuff, but that's what they mean by reasonableness is like what would a player do under those normal circumstances? And the player would have to, get out from under the net and get out of that area. I just didn't, for me personally, I just didn't like the way he did it. I just thought he kind of dragged himself a little bit, and the contact with Anderson's left pad there didn't really make matters any better. But it's all kind of academic now because at least the Ducks won this game, and we don't have to go back and sweat, losing on a controversial goal or anything like that. But again, we just try to bring up the rules and let everybody know, just so why the refs do what they do. And yeah, was it controversial? Of course, we can debate it all night long what it was, but it doesn't really matter, Eddie, because the best part about it is the Ducks overcame that and came back and won, and that's something that if a team's going to go all the way to the Western Conference and hopefully the Stanley Cup, that's the kind of character a team's got to have, and the Ducks definitely have that.
Yeah, and another thing too is you look at the depth and a lot of guys they've had out of the lineup, and a lot of guys recently called up too. Obviously Fleischman and Gibson, I believe he's still hurt, but he's still out as well. Holtzer, Manson being recalled during the game last night actually, and Sekach, Thompson, and Wisniewski, all guys who can come into the lineup and who are pretty much available. And then we heard today with Nason being recalled, and we could be expecting a few more, maybe Cordelis, Theodore, and possibly Freiberg as well as some other guys he might be calling up. And the depth is going to be key, especially if we're going to have to match up, and that's why you've seen maybe Sekach and Fleischman sit, and for guys like Jackman and Bolesky, and add a little bit more size to the lineup. And it's just good having those options, being able to match up, and just having if a guy goes down like Wagner did last night, you can bring in another guy to fill a spot.
Yeah, and speaking of that, got a lot of fan questions about that. I also talked to Dan and Steve about Manson. Just so everybody knows, Manson was recalled basically because the Admiral season has ended, and it wasn't because any other defenseman's hurt. Because I know as soon as that happened during the game, my phone basically blew up with "Who's hurt? Who's hurt?" And there's nobody hurt on the defense, at least that I was made aware of from anybody. So it was a depth move that Dan Wood and Steve Carroll had said, and like you had mentioned, there could be several more moves. The Ducks are going to have to kind of figure out what to do with the lineup. We went with the same lineup in game one and game two. They got word that Gibson and Thompson will be going to Winnipeg. Bruce didn't comment on Wagner today, so we're not really sure if he's going or not. But there's going to probably be a little bit of shuffling, I would think, Eddie. If Wagner and Thompson can't go, they're going to have to figure out what to do, with the fourth line center position.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign that Thompson's traveling. That means he's probably, if not being ready for game three, he'll be ready for game four, and same goes for Gibson. But I think if Wagner's not able to go and Thompson's not able to go, your most likely option is probably Cogliano. He's really the only other guy who's played center that is playing wing right now, and then you bring in a guy like Fleischman or Sekach to fill his role. And it's not ideal, but at least Cogliano's had some experience at center, and it fills a little bit of a hole for now, and then until at least for only for one game, and either Wagner or Thompson are back for the next game. But ideally we'd like to have either Wagner or Thompson fill that fourth line role.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, like you said, to see what they're going to do because there's not really, at least at the team right now, there's not really anybody else that can play center. Cogs did before, so that may be something they may have to do unless they recall someone from the Admirals, Cordelis or something like that if he's ready to go. But I don't think Bruce would do that. I think he would do more something like you had suggested, either Cogliano or I don't know, but they would have to do something like that because we've got an abundance of wingers right now, and you got to get those guys in there. And I know a lot of the fans have been asking, about Fleshman and Sekach, also why Wisniewski's out. And I've been telling everybody, I'm pretty sure it's going with the physicality, of the Jets. That's what the Ducks are matching up with, and I think it's a smart move. I mean, is it surprising that Wisniewski's out for the first two games? Definitely. We thought he would be in there. But you got to give Stoner a little bit of credit in the last game. Eddie, the Jets could have been up 2-0, and he made a big save there in the third period when Freddie was down. So I mean, he hasn't played perfect, but he has played well, and he's really gotten under the skin of the Jets in these two games.
Yeah, and I think that's why, Bruce has put him in. And, he's under the microscope with a lot of the fans. So if he makes a mistake like he did in the first game and, he almost made a mistake that cost us in the second game, it's going to be noticed a bit more than other people. But, he still had 4 hits and 3 blocks in that game, only 1 giveaway. So, that's not leading the team either. So I think he's had a pretty good game. Yeah, obviously we'd have liked him to shoot when he had the puck in front of the net, but he decided to pass it. But I think, he's been good. He hasn't been bad, and I get why he's in there over Wisniewski, more physical team. And, if we move on and play a team like obviously we're either playing Calgary or Vancouver, I could see Wisniewski coming back in against a team like that is a little bit less physical, and we don't need a guy like Stoner. We need a guy who's a little bit more mobile. So, maybe we see Wisniewski and Sekach and Fleischman jump in then, and possibly see a guy like some of the guys we called up from Norfolk pop in too. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, as far as the skating front went, they had an optional skate today, so there wasn't really much information out of practice as far as lineups or pairings or whatnot. So we're gonna have to wait, until tomorrow morning when we get that information to see. But I would think we would see, maybe Sekach in instead of Edom or Fleshman in there in this third game. I think there's going to be a little bit of a change just because of the physicality. I don't know if they'll change the defense, though. I don't know if Wisniewski will come in. It's really hard right now with, we have 6 good defensemen that are playing these last, 2 games, and obviously Wisniewski adds a 7th. So it's going to be tough, and look at Botman. He's really come on these last 2 games. I think the lighter load, the final end of the season really helped him out. He scored obviously in game 1. He had some good chances in game 2. So if I'm Bruce right now, I mean, it's not an easy decision, especially on the defensive side, Eddie, of who I'm going to start.
Yeah, I know. I think, in all honesty, he's probably going to go with the same team. It's worked so far, and there hasn't been too many problems. Obviously, in the fact that we've had to come back in every game and haven't been able to really get ahead. But I like how Edom's played. I like how Palmieri's played. Even though if anybody's going to come out, those are probably the 2 most likely guys being on the fourth line. And the only change I could really see happening is possibly Wagner not being able to play. And if Thompson's ready, he goes in, or Cogliano slips down to center, and you see, like we said, Sekach or Fleischman come in. But other than that, I think he's pretty much going to stick with the same team. It's worked so far. Everybody's played well. You can't really fault anybody. You can't really single out any one guy saying he's played bad for any period of time. So I think it'd be a good idea too, just to go with the same team heading into Winnipeg and assess it from there.
Yeah, I think so too. And then if by chance we win that game and we go up, 3-0, then I think you could see a whole lot of changes. Game 4, and then if it did go to game 5, because then at that point you're up 3-0. It's time to start rotating some players and get some guys in that haven't been in the beginning. And you don't want those guys to sit out too long, especially if we win this series early, which I'm not saying we're going to, but if that's the case, you want to at least have those guys in the last couple, games, getting some action before, we face either Calgary or Vancouver, who, if you guys been keeping up with the news, they basically had like a Hanson brothers brawl in game 2 there. It was pretty wild, Eddie. It seemed like of the other series that have been all going on, that's been Montreal and Ottawa's been pretty contested, but that series has been very, very contested.
Yeah, and just a quick thing about changing the lineups if we end up going up 3-1 or 3-0 or 3-1. I think you got to be careful of that too. We talked about how they have to be able to close out games, and if you change things up from after winning 3 games in a row, if that's the case, and you change things up, and then from you can't close it out. I think that's dangerous too. I think all these guys are ready. They're practicing every day. They're out there for the warm up, so I think they're all game ready. I think, if we go up 3-0, it might be better to keep the lineups the same. But we'll wait and see. We're not even there yet. We still got a game 3 to go. But like you said, though, with these other series going on, we're one of only the 2 teams are actually leading 2-0. Obviously, with the Montreal Ottawa series and that one being close and contested, just like ours. So. I think it's a testament to how close everybody said these playoffs are going to be. Obviously, the Islanders just won today, so they're up 2-1, but everybody else is tied. And they're all pretty close games. There was a couple blowouts with Tampa Bay the other night in Vancouver, but the first games were close or going the other way. So I think you could see almost all these series going to 7 games possibly, but it's just gonna keep getting tighter from here with teams getting desperate.
Yeah, and it's been interesting too. I mean, you look at that Chicago Nashville series. The problems that Crawford's had in net. It's kind of interesting. I was kind of surprised after Game One. The way things went down. They put him in Game Two, and then he lost. And right now, I'm looking at the scores, and they're winning right now in Game Three. But looks like they're the team that's going to have some goalie issues that they're going to have to figure out, especially if they get past the Predators here in this round.
Yeah, and speaking to that too, is that Darling's in net today as well, so they've already changed it up a bit. And if he has a good strong outing right now, I believe he has 25 saves right now through 2 periods, only letting 2 goals in. So he's taking a claim to bump out the Stanley Cup champion and Corey Crawford. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see how they go. And everybody obviously saying the Ducks are gonna have goalie issues coming into the playoffs, and or Winnipeg's gonna have goalie issues coming into the playoffs. It's it's kind of crazy to see the Chicago Blackhawks being the ones that have goalie issues coming in with how strong Crawford's been in the playoffs for them over the past few seasons.
Yeah, you mentioned the goalie thing too. One thing we didn't really talk about was Pavelec's play in Game Two. I mean, I was kind of nervous there for a sec, Eddie. I mean, Pavelec really stood on his head until the final like 10 minutes of that Game Two.
Oh yeah, yeah, and we expected it too. We said that he can be streaky, and if he gets confident and makes a couple big saves, he can go on a roll. And he he was pretty much killing us until we got that goal from Patrick Maroon, and you could see it when we scored. He smacked his stick off the post, and he was angry. He was feeling it, and he was hoping to get the shutout and take his team to the win. And I think if anybody deserves the win last night, it was Pavlik. He had a very strong game for them. Not to say he didn't have a strong first game either, but some of the saves he made, on Cogliano on the backhand that he had at the side of the net, and a couple other big saves throughout the game. I think we got to be careful. He's gonna have some. He could have some other strong games like this, and we gotta fight and hopefully not go down more than one.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the key as we go forward these next two games in Winnipeg. Obviously they haven't had a playoff game there since '96. For those of you that don't know, the Jets franchise actually left at the end of the '95-'96 season and went to Arizona. They became the Phoenix Coyotes at that time, and then obviously now are the Arizona Coyotes. So those fans up there are going to be hungry. I think all the keys that we've talked about, the special teams play, the physicalness, the face-offs are all still going to be key, obviously, going into those two games. For me, though, I really think the Ducks need to score first and have a lead, at least early in the game. Try to take the Jets crowd out of it. If the Ducks can, have a lead at the end of the first period and especially at the end of the second period, then I think the momentum is really going to stay with the Ducks, and the pressure is going to be way, heavily on the Jets, especially at home, Eddie.
Yeah, and I don't think you're ever gonna take the fans out of it. You're gonna have to be up 3-4-0 to even attempt to take them out of it. They're gonna be excited for their, obviously like you said, the first game, playoff game in Winnipeg for a while. There was a playoff game in franchise history back when it was in Atlanta and in the early 2000s, but that obviously doesn't count for them, and they're gonna be pumped up, and they're gonna be excited no matter what. So it's going to be tough to go through that atmosphere. I doubt we're going to see a lot of Ducks fans there, especially with the price of the tickets. It's going to be mostly Jets fans, and they're going to be rocking. So we're going to have to be on point and maybe get a goal early to try and quiet them. But I don't think it's really going to help.
Yeah, I think you're right, Eddie. I mean, it's going to take more than just one to take the crowd out of it. But I'm just hoping that the Ducks, it's we've talked about it. It's exciting to see them come back and win these types of games. And don't get me wrong, it's a thriller, and the cardiac kids is some people have called them and whatnot. But I would like to get a lead in the third period and just take it to the Jets and win that way. It would be nice to get one, even if it's another one goal win. I'll take it, but. just sometimes my heart can't handle these comebacks in the third period every time.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a lead going into the third period. It's that much more intensified in the playoffs. In the season, we kind of got used to it, and we're like, all right, they're probably gonna come back here, so just get ready. But when you have as much riding on it as you do in the playoffs, especially last night, like I don't think I could handle it when Silverberg scored, but. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack for about 30 minutes after he scored the goal. So it'd be nice to go in the third period with a lead. But hey, if we end up winning the game and the last second goal again, I'm not going to be too mad.
Yeah, of course not. I mean that was exciting. I remember hanging out with my family. And we were all screaming in the living room, so it was a good time. There's a couple other things going on too right now. I mentioned yesterday on Twitter. One of my friends works at Goalie Monkey, which is connected to Monkey Sports. And basically, what they're doing now is they're having a 10% sale off everything in their store the days that the Ducks play. So each Ducks, game day. So Monday and Wednesday, obviously, and then if there's a Friday game, if you go down to Goalie Monkey in Santa Ana, it's a 1420 Village Way. It's off the 55 freeway in McFadden. When you go to checkout, you just mention Go Ducks, and you'll get 10% off anything in the store. And you can get a replica Ducks jersey for $89.99, which isn't a bad deal. You still have to pay the regular price for the customization, but still, that's a good deal. Especially when you go to these other places, Eddie, and they're charging you 120 or more for a jersey.
Yeah, I know. And I'm going down to look at one now, and it's like $120, and it's tough to pull the wallet and buy it. But yeah, no, that's definitely a good deal. Obviously, I wish I could go down there, but it costs me triple the amount of money just to drive down there. So I think I'll have to settle for the $120 right now.
And then the other thing that we have going too is I was going through all my playoff towels, and I have a couple left over from the 2007 season. The first year that they did the orange towels. So a couple people have bought some of the shirts on the website on dnphockey.com, and they've got I've thrown in a 2007 Let's Go Ducks towel. There's a couple left still, so if you get on there and you manage to get a shirt and you're a lucky one, I'll throw those in there, and we'll probably have some kind of other special like that. Hopefully, I don't want to jinx it, but we go to round two, we'll probably have one then. And each week we'll be doing the podcast, regardless where the Ducks are in the series. We'll try to stay up to date on everything. And as always, just follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And whenever we hear something, we'll get it out to you guys. And really appreciate the support. And let's go Ducks.
The Anaheim Ducks are the Stanley Cup champions.